My good Lord, I just love that intro.
We are back.
Every time it plays, I want to do like a very fancy, spooky, but fancy little schoolgirl dance. Dun 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 dun.
You're always a fancy man. Fancy
I am a
man.
fancy man. I'm a fancy lad with fancy tastes. Anybody who has had the opportunity to spend any actual time with me understands that I have quite an exclusive taste for things that might be distasteful to others. All right.
No.
Welcome, guys, back to Ghosted right here on the new and improved Antisocial Network. We're coming at you from a new streaming service. As tons of you know, you were typing messages to us. They were never coming through. So we kind of kicked StreamYard to the curb. We're trying something new that boasts unified chat. Feel free to fire away. We're going to take a little trip outside the norm today, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be fun.
I mean, we figured, we review videos, we call them bullshit or we call them legit. And we do that every week. It is great. Everybody has a good time. But I think we should tell some ghost stories of our own with some people that have some ghost stories to share. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We got a couple bad mothers on with us today, huh?
Yep.
Look, let's bring out my old buddy Dan first. What's up, brother? Thanks for joining.
What
Professional
up, man?
wrestling monkey just like me. Got lots of good spooky stories. Doors wide open. But we can't say another word without moving forward with bringing on the actual guest of honor. I've been chasing this guy for a while now. I finally got him nailed down. He's a hot commodity.
Yep.
Mr. Paul Dale Roberts, God damn it.
Welcome.
Thank you, Rob.
Yes. For those of you who don't know out there, this guy is a really predominant ghost hunter. He's also an author of like 20 books, something like that.
Actually, it's about 73 now.
Holy
shit.
crap.
Yeah.
It was 20 last time we talked. I thought he was going to say, no, dude, it's 21 now.
Yeah.
I was going to be like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Damn.
every time I do an investigation, I write an article. That article goes into a compilation, into a book. And when it's all completed, about 50 pages, bam, I publish it.
Nice. Got to get our hands on some of those.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. So, hey, we got our first commenter on the new stream. What's up, Miss Stephanie?
Hey, baby.
It's always good to hear from somebody who's prettier than me because they're very few and far between. All right. So most people would say let's jump right to Paul and get one, but we don't want to supersede everybody else's. Danny boy. The pipes. Okay. It's your turn. Tell me something spooky. What happened to you?
All right. So we were visiting some friends in California. And she kept telling us about she's had some spirits, something weird stuff going on in her house, So the first thing that we had was her cigarettes came missing. And that was one of the things that she said that was happening. Like shit was getting displaced. And I figured she's getting old. She was a partier. So who knows what actually was really going on. So it was a great friend of ours. We weren't there going ghost hunting or anything. We were just visiting a friend. And so she told us about all this stuff that was happening. It's hard for me, even though I've experienced stuff, it's hard for me to believe when people are telling me the stories. I'm always in my head. I'm like, yeah, bullshit. Sure, buddy. Anyway, so the cigarettes, we all were looking for the cigarettes. The cigarettes were on the table like 2 hours later where everybody had looked and they're just sitting right there. And I was like, that is kind of weird. And then the dartboard would go off and she said it's unplugged. And of course, I was like, yeah, sure. And I went in there and looked. And sure as shit, the dartboard was unplugged and it's still making noises like somebody's throwing the darts. It was one of them electric ones. And it was
Right.
like somebody was throwing the darts in there, and the score was adding up, and the thing was on, and that was a little off. But so my stuff came missing. I had it was a little jar pot and a bowl, and I know everybody's
Okay.
like, "Oh, you're a stoner, you forgot where it was at." No, it was gone. It picked up and left, and it was special to me. Somebody gave me a friend of mine gave me the bowl, so it meant a lot. I started to cuss this thing out, whatever it was. I'm like, yeah, of course, I'm the tough guy. I'm like, you fucked with the wrong person. Now, you're taking my shit, blah blah blah. And I said some like really bad stuff.
So you started being douchebag Zach Baggins style,
even worse.
challenging a ghost.
Okay. Even worse. I've watched him, and yeah, I would have to say even worse. Like I wish I told whatever it was. I said, I hope you died a horrible death. I hope your children died with you. Like I was being a complete dick about it. So that night, I'm sleeping in their theater room, and there's no windows in there at all or nothing. And the dog's in there with me.
And the
dog woke me up, screamed. He was like making these weird, I would call it like a growling scream that the dog was doing. And I could see the dog, and he's standing up, and all the hair on his back was razor back, and he's looking up in the corner of the room. And as I sat up to see what he was seeing, a great big steel picture fell right off the wall and landed right where my head was. And so I started to freak out a little bit about that. The next day, they lived on a mountain, and their backyard went up like a triangle up to a point at the top. So I walked up the mountain and went up there, and I was physically like something happened. I can't explain it. I saw like a white light coming up the fence line it was the neighbor's yard. So I hear people. I heard somebody walk in. I thought it was a flashlight at first, but it was like a weirdish. Like more of a green, like I don't know if you've seen like the Northern Lights, how they have like a greenish glow. That's kind of how it was coming up on the side of the fence. And I'm hearing somebody walking to where I'm going, hey, I was talking to it like, hey, I'm here at Rick and Colleen's house, and we're I just came up the backyard and blah blah blah. Nobody's saying nothing. I'm going, hello. Nobody's saying nothing. Then all of a sudden it felt like something had went into my ear. And this is the part where it's funky, dude. It felt like something went in my ear, and my head blew up with air or something, and like made a wave through my whole head. And it was a very weird experience. Like I wish I can have people feel how it felt. And then I got really scared. I got cold. I'd got the goosebumps going on, and still at this point, I'm really not thinking. I really thought somebody was on the other side of the fence. I really thought it was the neighbors, And the wife, she wound up coming out, and we were sitting out. I told her, what was going on. I didn't feel right and all that. And then she started to see, like, we were looking down on the yard, and it looked like you could see shadow people all over their backyard. That night, I wound up going to sleep. I woke up. I had marks on me. The people that we went to see started fighting, and like it was a horrible. Like I know I know our friend she was very aggressive. I didn't know her new boyfriend. I had just met him, but like they turned into something that I didn't know what it was. Me, my wife, and my son. My son was there. We wound up getting in the car, and I packed all my shit, and we wound up leaving. My wife's back there trying to show me stuff. What are you telling me? The scratches. Yeah, I had. I woke up I had huge scratches on my leg, and that were completely. I couldn't explain any of that. I got to go back a day for. Sorry.
I really hate to burst your bubble, but that was me and Doug the whole time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was that night I didn't go back down to the theater room. I wound up staying in the kid's bedroom, one of the kids' bedrooms. And as I was laying there, I could see like what looked like pixelated something. I see movement on the wall, and it looked like fuzz or something. And I started to watch it, and it was coming into the room, and it was like growing, and then all of a sudden I could hear it, and it sounded like somebody messing with cigarette cellophane. As this thing was growing on the wall, it was like making this weird noise, like playing with cellophane. And then that night when I went to sleep, that was the night that I got scratched. And then we wound up running. Literally, when I say we ran out of the house, we ran out of the house. The boyfriend was like, I need you to stay here as a witness. And I'm like, as a witness? You're like, what the fuck? I'm like, we're leaving. And he's like, no, dude, because if she hits me, I'm going to fucking kill her. Like, he was this little timid guy. And then all of a sudden he turned into this, like, I don't want to say a raging maniac, but they became raging fucking maniacs. I'm like, dude, we're leaving. And we left with our tail between our legs. Wound up when I got home, I started to hear, I'm watching wrestling, and I'm sitting in my chair, and my dog is looking into the dining room, and the dog starts like making look little woof, 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 like he's looking like what the fuck is that, you know, kind of barking and growling real lightly. So with the experience that I had, I turned my phone on, and I was just recording over my shoulder, wasn't saying nothing, and I can hear that crackling cellophane. I wound up getting on video, which I wish I had. I'm trying to charge the phone. I was trying to see if I can get it to you. All of a sudden, it looked like a guinea pig shadow manifested on the table. There was on the wall. I could see the shadow, dude. It was one of the most crazy experiences where I was like, holy shit, something is going on. So whatever we were involved with in California, we had brought back with us, because then my children started to come up and they started to tell me stuff that they started to see. And it always was like the one I found a newspaper from it was like, say, I'm just going to throw out a date. It was like October 19th, 1926. I found it stuffed in the wall. And I found it on October 19th, like 2010 or whatever the day was. It was the exact day on the newspaper. And my daughter came down and she said, Daniel came up and sat on the bed and said,
Was it 1922?
No, actually, it was when Soldier Field was being built.
Candace, you're a goddamn liar. You know what you're talking about.
Oh, was it 1922? It probably was. It probably was. So, yeah,
what do you make of that, Paul? What's some, like you just heard a client telling you an experience. What's your gut to that?
That was some crazy shit.
Yeah.
But I mean, with the scratches and everything else, it sounds like it's something that's demonic. So, yeah. I mean, it doesn't sound like a ghost. You know, that's some serious stuff.
It's much harder for a ghost to attach themselves and follow you, right? That's more of a demon thing, too.
Right. It's a demon thing. Yeah, ghosts don't usually follow. I mean, they have no purpose to really follow you. They don't know your house. They're comfortable where they're at. Right. And it seems like there's like a paranormal wall that keeps them from going outside. So unless, like with these ghosts, if you take an object, let's say a grandmother's diary, and you bought it from this antique store, you brought it to your house, now they have the ability to go from point A to point B. They're haunting this one house because they lived there all their life, but now they can go to your house because you have grandma's diary. And so grandma the ghost is going to follow you because of that diary. Her energy is surrounding that diary.
It's funny you say that because the guy that the boyfriend was a collector, and he had just bought a whole bunch of Civil War stuff, guns, and he was a gun collector. He had like over 300 guns. A lot of them were new, but a lot of them were used. Some of them were from the Civil War and stuff. Bullets.
So then
we had a bunch of stuff like that.
So then, realistically, for all you know, Like that could have followed anybody who has
Yeah.
been over, depending on how many spirits he picked up from
Yeah.
those relics, right? If he had a whole bunch of them and one took flight with one guest every time, his house is a fucked up place to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Like as the wife says, I dubbed it the Devil's Den. It was one of as soon as I walked in the door, I'm not saying I'm clairvoyant or anything, but I walk into a place and I can feel it's like I don't know, pressure. I get I'm off. I always tell people it's like starting off a bad acid trip is how I feel when I know there's something not right in the, something either bad happened here or I absorb that for
So as
how
soon as the tinglies turn into needles, you know shit's gonna go bad.
yeah, it just
Yeah.
I get depressed. Sometimes you feel like you just want to cry. Sometimes you get really angry. I get hot and I'll start sweating. Like I'm just off, and I usually try to tell people and I told her when I walked in that house, I'm like, dude, this place is fucked, man. Every place. So her ex-husband, I don't want to talk too bad about the girl because she is my friend and she's recently passed away. So she had some type of an attachment to her. Her husband said it anywhere she went. Bad things, weird things happen and bad things happen. She lived she was a great person, but she'd had lived some rough times, So when I was telling her ex-husband about what was going on, and he started to tell me a little bit about his reactions to that interactions that he had, and he said, of course, it was nothing like that, but the pixelation on the wall and the crackling noises that was coming from that started in the gun room where he had all his guns at and worked its way down the hallway. So I don't know if it was something from her or if it was something from there, but whatever she had never left her house. She had it until the day she had passed away, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a pretty weird experience that where I really started to because I partook in partying and did a lot of psychedelics. So some of them shadow people stuff, I always what the fuck was that? Oh, it's just my mind, was clouded, or it's a party in
It's the
California.
fucking cane.
Yeah. It was there was no partying really involved in that situation, and it was just fucking horrible. Like I realized then, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of weird shit, and then to come home with it and it's still we saw little kids in the house. I had an Xbox thrown at me, and I tried to recreate it as much as I was jumping up on the floors trying to make the floor bounce to see if it was my fat ass walking past it and knocked, and it flew off. But the way it spun and came at me as an angle, if it would have fallen, it just would have fallen straight off the shelf and onto the floor. But it actually spun a little bit.
Was it the controller or the whole Xbox?
It was the whole Xbox. It was
Holy
broken,
crap.
and my kid had brought it downstairs and put it on our. My wife has an old antique bar that she put it on top of, and it flew probably at the angle. It flew probably 6 feet from where it was sitting at. And it spun as it did it, and I tried so hard to recreate it. And,
right. Yeah, those things ain't light.
No, and I just couldn't do it. And it was, I don't know if it was all this stuff involved, but I wound up doing research on the house, trying to find out who was in our house. I did research on her house, there was no murders or nothing. My house, there was no murders. But I did find a girl died right down the street from us in the 1800s in a tornado. Her name was Lottie. And we used to go to the graveyard every 4th of July to watch the fireworks. And there was some soldiers that were buried up there. So we sat up there with them and we would watch the fireworks. And one day I was like, let's go find Lottie. And I went, of course, to the furthest part of the the graveyard because she died in 1881, I believe it was, and we couldn't find it over there. And I was like, let's drive out. And I went right to the spot, right where she was, right where her grave was. Like something led me to her grave. And then when we lived in that town, I would go and put peacock feathers on her grave.
So Danny, listen. This sounds like something we could fill up an absolute whole episode.
No,
on.
you could, dude.
Let's go ahead and put a pin in that for now. What I wanted to ask you, Paul, for a very long time is if you wouldn't mind sharing with us your first real supernatural experience.
Well, that was back on Effie Street when I was a little boy in Fresno. And all kinds of crazy stuff happened to me. The entities were centered on me. They pushed me into a heater. I would look out my bedroom window, and out in the orange grove, a woman's voice that sounded like my mother was calling me and said, Dale, come here. Dale, come here. That's my middle name. My mother was in the kitchen. If I was being enticed to go into that orange grove, and if I went in there, what would have happened to me? So, I mean, just all kinds of crazy crap. And that's why I got into the paranormal, because so much stuff was happening to me in that house. Then when I got older, I want to know if that was childhood nightmares or if that was something that was very real. It was paranormal. So I started reading books from Brad Steiger. I started getting into Eric Von Daniken's Chariot of the Gods, cryptids, you name it. Everything paranormal, I started reading. Later on in my life, I communicated with Brad Steiger and told him, hey, I was a big fan of yours when I was a little boy, and I was reading your books up in my treehouse in Monterey. And he thought that was funny as all hell. And before I knew it, he was placing my articles into his books. So that was my connection to the legendary Brad Steiger. With that, when I was in the military from 1973, 1976, and 1979 to 1986, 73 to 76, I was an MP military policeman, and I was working with CID, Criminal Investigation Division, Drug Suppression Team in Germany, traveling throughout Germany, buying drugs, and testifying at court-martials in Article 32s. Well, that didn't get me into the paranormal. But then in 1979, I went back into the service, into military intelligence. And I was a 97 Bravo intelligence analyst, and I was with the Photo Interpretation Center in Korea. And on one particular day, 6 photographs came in. And on those 6 photographs, it depicted different type of UFOs or UAPs, whatever you want to call them, that were taken by our reconnaissance satellites and reconnaissance aircraft. And the photographs was of a boomerang type craft, triangle, disc, a cube, something that looks like ball lightning, and a globe. And on the back of each photograph, it said intelligent movement. So at that day, that when those photographs came in, I knew that military intelligence was still investigating UFOs, even though that Project Blue Book closed down in 1969. The military was still involved with UFOs. And I've written an article about this and everything else. And he said, well, Paul, aren't you afraid that you're going to get arrested? No, because if they were to arrest me for what I'm saying, it would show that what I'm saying is the truth.
Yeah.
Paul, am I going to get killed for hosting this?
You might be investigated by the Men in Black.
I haven't seen them in months, damn it. I thought we were done.
But on the back of each photograph, those photographs represented a full video that was taken either by the reconnaissance satellites or the reconnaissance aircraft. And on the back of each photograph, it said intelligent movement. So here, military intelligence taking pictures of these UAPs, UFOs, whatever you want to call them, and saying they had intelligent movement.
Yeah,
So
that's a classification.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it blew my mind. I knew at that point in time we are not alone.
Oh my
Wow.
God. I want to do a whole show on this next. Paul, will you come do more on this next?
Yeah, sure.
That would be awesome.
My
Yeah.
man.
Oh yeah.
That would be
Hell
pretty
yes.
cool.
So
Yeah,
Paul,
I'd
let
be
me
working that.
You know, and let me tell you, okay, I actually, with those photographs, when I saw intelligent movement on the back of the photo, I never knew I was going to become a paranormal investigator, but I knew a lot about the paranormal because I read a lot of books. Here, I started utilizing the intelligent movement in my investigations, and this is how. In one of our investigations at this house, the ghost was named Emily. That's what the occupants called her, Emily. And Emily was known to drain the energy of the occupants. It would make them tired, fatigued, you know, they lazy, they didn't want to do nothing. So my investigator, while we're investigating that house, my investigator was telling me, he goes, you know, I'm feeling tired. I need to sit down. I feel like I'm going to pass out. I said, I wonder if Emily is draining the energy from you. So I said, Emily, if you're listening to me, kiss him on the lips. And three of us snap a photo, and what we get was an orb on his mouth.
Oh wow.
I said, oh my God, that's intelligent movement.
that's
I said,
intelligent reaction.
yeah. I said, okay, Emily, if you're listening to me again, sit on his lap. Only one camera went off, and that was my camera. I take a picture, and the orb is now hovering over his lap. And I said, right there, that's something I can deem as paranormal. That's intelligent movement. And in some of my investigations, what I do now is I'll place my hand on the wall and I say, okay, if you're listening to me, appear by my hand. And I swear I get so many pictures of these orbs on my hand by just placing my hand on the wall. So, and if the place isn't haunted, I don't get any kind of picture, but it seems like they listen.
Yeah.
Now, Paul,
Wow.
it seems to me, if I may, that you kind of missed an obvious way to prove supernatural without question. So you said sit on his lap, that you saw the orb sitting on his lap. If you would have followed up with, okay, Emily, while you're down there, get it?
All right, Rob.
I knew it was going there.
I
Now
knew
you
Yeah,
Rob-
watch this.
I knew
Now, if
Rob
you
was
got
gonna go that
footage of
route.
this, if you got footage of this guy doing this, okay, you got it, dude. Go, Emily. Emily, why don't you go ahead and come home with me and let's
That
test
is
out some of the
proof
shit.
of the paranormal. That's proof of the paranormal. And Rob, I knew you were going to go that route.
That's funny.
Damn.
You two guys know me too fucking well, I tell you.
Just like 2 years ago, here we go.
Yeah, I think I made a lot of screwing ghosts jokes back then too.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, why should Dan Aykroyd be the only guy to get laid by
I
a
was
ghost,
just
right?
thinking about that.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, leave your tip on the nightstand. I'll do that. Don't tell anybody about this ghost. I don't want to pay out any hush money.
Yeah.
Oh, you see what I did there? Oh, all right. So you wanna give us one there, Doug?
Well, so I never really experienced anything, at least as far as I know, paranormal until I was a teenager. Until I was in the summer of '88. I was 12 going on 13, and my family and I we moved from the Bay Area and Concord up to El Dorado Hills.
And real quick, this story actually, Paul might be able to shed some light about what that actually was.
Well, so many stories in that house. Anyway, so this brand new house that you would think nothing would ever like be going on in a brand new house. Well, it didn't take long for weird stuff to start happening. For years, the main thing that would happen would be these weird strings of little girls' play jewelry beads. Like they're different colors. They could be a string of 3 or a string of 5 or 6, 8, whatever. And different colors: red, green, blue, bright yellow, pink, varying in length and, obviously and color. But they would just like show up around the house, like very like just like we're sitting around, and then all of a sudden, oh, there's another string of beads. It was just the weirdest thing. Of course, I thought that was really weird. My parents tried to downplay it, and everything, and some other things. And me and my brother, who was like 5 at the time, we would talk about it. My dad go, "Come on, it's a new house, haunted houses, not really, just being the parents and not wanting to, get us all excited." Anyway, so that would happen. Like one particular afternoon, we're watching a movie, and the carpets were like a deep blue. And we're there about an hour into the movie. All of a sudden, in the middle of the living room, oh, bright yellow string of beads. It's like no one noticed this before. Just all of a sudden, they're there. Very strange. Upstairs, downstairs, these things would just pop up. So that's one thing. Also in this house, as I got older, got, into high school and everything, I would get really like dreadful feelings. Like, I mean, like I'd be in my bedroom and I feel like I am being watched.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like really, holy shit. I'd grab a dagger. Sometimes I'd sleep with a dagger under my pillow. I know that sounds silly because like, I mean, it's like, what the hell's a dagger going to do against a ghost or something like that? But it just made me feel better. So just doing that.
And just the fact that this was a literal brand new development, and you moved into a full-on haunted house with what we determined back then to be 3 separate kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, then there was the time I saw some lady walk into my bedroom in the middle of the night, kind of just walk in, look out the window, walk out, and it wasn't my mom. It was just, it wasn't, the body wasn't right and the hair was too long and everything.
All right, it was me.
Damn it, Rob. Anyway, and so there was that, and then sometimes hear rattling dishes in the cupboard, and then there was the time, God, this was, I would say, senior year in high school, and it was storming, and my parents were taking my little brother to a Cub Scout camping thing, and I had a driver's license by that time, and I was gone every weekend. Rob and I were going out, terrifying everybody. So my dad was like, "Look, I want you guys to stay. I don't want you." Well, there was no cell phones back then. We graduated in '93, so he's like, "Look, we don't want you. We're going to be gone for the weekend. We don't want you guys going out or anything. And in case something happens, you can't get a hold of us. So we're going to get you some pizza, rent some movies for you, and you guys just stay and watch the house." Okay, cool. So we stayed and watched the house and watched movies and stuff. And then upstairs, the wind's blowing and everything, but the windows are shut. Upstairs, all of a sudden the doors start slamming by themselves and then reopening and slamming again. So that was pretty significant stuff. There's a lot of crazy crap going on. And then looking up at, we could see the lady that I saw at the top of the stairs. For me, very vaguely. Rob remembers her, I think, a little more clearly than I do. To me, it looked very like see-through, but I could just make her out. Of course,
and I'd heard the story of this woman so many times that when we were trying to antagonize whatever ghosts were there to really come out, and I looked at the top of the stairs, my only thought was, and I think I actually said it out loud, "Oh my God, there she is."
Yeah.
And I was looking right at this woman standing at the top of the stairs.
Wow,
It was
that's
amazing.
crazy.
And so, but the biggest thing that happened in that house, this would have been, not long after high school graduation. My grandma lived with us, and we were having homemade Chinese food or something. And my mom and my grandma were in the kitchen, and I'm sitting on the one couch. My dad is over in his chair, and my brother was dished up first. My little brother was sitting on the floor at the coffee table, right like 2 feet away from me. And he was eating his food, and he had a glass of orange juice sitting there. And I got one of those. I'm laying on the couch, everyone's around me. I got one of those weird feelings again, like I'm being watched. And I kind of looked around, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm turning sideways here. All of a sudden, I kind of felt like this weird, like I'm being guided or something. And I kind of felt this weird smirk play out on my face for some reason. And I kind of looked at the glass of orange juice, and all of a sudden that glass of orange juice just freaking exploded across the room. I mean, not like it was like an invisible person came up from behind it. I can't do much, my arms in a thing, but it was like an invisible person came up behind this with an invisible golf club, and just boom, and just shot glass shards, like, and I call it like the baseball diamond formation. Like if the glass was home plate, toward the one windows first, and then diagonal across the room to the TV is second base, and then my dad's recliner is third base, and then back to us. There were shards of glass and this is a big room, shards of glass in front of the fireplace, just all over the place. And my brother, as soon as that thing exploded, my brother was about to take a bite of food. He's like, "What the heck? What the heck?" And I'm just like, as soon as it exploded, that feeling left me, like whatever that was, and I just went, and I'm just like, and I'm just watching the orange juice spill all over the place,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, my dad looks over and he goes, "What the hell happened?" And I went, the glass blew up," or whatever I said.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, God, don't just sit there and stare at it. We got to clean it up." And my dad was paranoid about broken glass, so he's breaking out the vacuum cleaner, and he's finding shards of glass by the TV and all over the place. He was very paranoid about broken glass, so the whole room got vacuumed. But and then
in areas that the glass had no business rightly being, no matter how it broke, it was with such velocity and force.
yeah, it was just, this thing just all over the place.
Wow.
And I when all the commotion was done, because my mom and my grandma, of course, came in. Wow, what the hell happened? And everything. All the commotion's done. I'm walking, and everything's cleaned up. I'm walking into the kitchen. I thought I was just completely by myself because I was going to get my own plate of food. And I looked up and I went, "Good one, guys." And then my dad goes, "What'd you say?" And my dad was following me, and I went, "Huh?" And he goes, and he's just looking at me weird. I went, "Oh, nothing." And he just looked at me with the weirdest look, like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" but
And his
yeah,
dad straight up looked like what he was, a retired fucking badass cop. So I could see his face and I could hear his voice. What did you say? Like, I want to know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah. But that was, and they tried to explain away, like, well, the glass might have been a little warm because it came out of the dishwasher, cold liquid hot glass. But I'm thinking it wouldn't wait 5 or 10 minutes to explode, and usually that would just crack and implode on itself.
It would it would have instantly cracked.
So what do you think?
It would,
Why
and
would
it
a
wouldn't wait
brand
15
new
minutes
house
then
do this?
explode. You what? Was
Master
that?
Paul, why would a brand new house do all of that?
Oh,
The land.
Yeah.
There's something going on with the land. Just like we investigated these brand new houses in South Sacramento. And it happens that there was an old Portuguese cemetery that was deep in the ground from the Sacramento River and everything else, and then they placed dirt over it, and they built these new homes, and a lot of these new homes became haunted because of the Portuguese cemetery that was on the land.
Wow.
And that stands to reason too, because it was built up there in the foothills up in El Dorado County. So they were digging the mountain back to put roads in, to put the high school, these new housing. So they were, who knows what they were pushing back, what was there before they started
So,
cutting
yeah,
it away.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, Silva Valley Road ran right behind our house, and then there's the fence, and then our backyard. There's a steep slope. They bulldozed down very deep, and then leveled it out, and then that's so like the top of that hill, the bottom of the fence would be almost level with the second story, the second floor almost. It was and I've always wondered, the land makes sense. And I've always wondered, like, what did they dig up? Did they dig like unmarked graves up or something? Just kind of keep it on the down low, or what? Well, because it
Yeah,
doesn't
but
make
those
sense.
could have, it could go so far as back frontier days. A campsite,
Yeah.
somebody
Exactly.
died, that's where they were
Yeah.
buried.
Well, hey, Rob, I mean, just like this one lady, she lived up in, I believe it was Auburn, and she lived in a brand new house. Her house was haunted. In fact, her house was actually featured on Ghost Adventures. And so we did an investigation. Come to find out, there was an encampment back in the day of the Miwok Indians. And some of those Miwok Indians most likely died on that property, maybe even buried there. And that's why her house is haunted.
And that kind of speaks to the whole, lady in white thing that everybody talks about. Whenever people talk about, oh, it's a lady in white, it's a mass hysteria, that was back before you got white, black, or brown clothes. That was it. So women like to wear white.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't have anything really spectacular yet. So,
Yeah.
Jesus, this has been a hell of a fun show, guys. I dig it. We're coming up to the end of our time here, though. So let's start throwing some plugs out. Danny, get started.
You could see us on Defiant Pro Wrestling. That's about all the plugs that I got right now.
Come on, dude. What's your fucking Facebook, your YouTube,
Bro,
whatever you got?
Man, I have no computer knowledge. It's Defiant Pro Wrestling, and it's a little alien. I got an alien head. I got the alien as our logo.
Little alien. All right, you fitting right in with our guest of honor, Paul. What you plugging today, babe?
Okay. If you want to see any of my books, all you have to do is just Google Paul Dale Roberts books, and it'll pop up. And also, too, you're talking about wrestling. My uncle, Fedicino Villalobos, used to wrestle with Pepper Gomez back in the late 50s. And he was known as El Lobo. He didn't have an illustrious career because he injured his back. But, and he had to get out of it. But he was at one time tag team partners with Pepper Gomez.
That's awesome.
And he wore a black ski mask.
That's awesome.
Right.
That's cool.
I've read one of the books that you put out. I don't remember which one it was. I think I read it with Leatherface, but it was really interesting because you could tell they weren't written by a ghostwriter and then given to an editor, then to a publisher, and the writer's still kind of over here. You could tell this is how I see it, and this is exactly how it's being published. It's some riveting shit in there.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Man, we're going to dedicate an entire episode of Ghosted to this aliens thing. That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So we'll get that set up just as soon as possible. In the meantime, we're here on the Antisocial Network. Guys, you see that little barcode up there? Take a picture of it with your camera, man. That's if you want to help the cause of artistic expression, no censorship, bringing you some real low-down content, maybe give us a hand, make a little donation. Wouldn't kill you, wouldn't kill us. Everybody would smile just a fucking little bit. You know what I mean? Which link? What you think, Doug? Did you have fun tonight? I hate asking
I
for
did.
money.
Yeah, that sucks.
Give us money, please.
How about this?
I had a ball. I had a blast tonight.
Please, right there. It's right. It's just there. See that? Just take a little picture of it and give us $1. Go, please give us $2.
You know, hey, on my end, it's covered with live. It says.
Son of the bitch! No, we got to figure
Yeah.
that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that show on just the viewer's end though? Or-
It just shows on our end. The
Do you-
viewers are
do you
not
see
seeing it.
her- Do you see his the
Yeah, that's
code
just
thing
on our end.
on there? Is it covered?
I'm
Oh,
telling
no,
you
yeah,
that it's
you're
not.
good. Yeah, you're good. It's just on our end.
Okay.
It looks like.
Hey, I want to thank Doug and Danny for their amazing paranormal story. That was really interesting.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Thank
yeah,
you. I
thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Rob, thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. And next time, I actually want to ask you about, because we didn't really have time to get to it today, but typically speaking, only demons can physically attack somebody. Can ghosts, or they may be in the poltergeist realm? I want to get into that because I got my ass handed to me in front of this guy 8 ways from Sunday, right there in a cemetery. And it happened to be in the same cemetery as a grave that I disrespected.
Ah,
So there's a lot to unpack there, and we don't really have the time to get into it, but we're going to get it. All right, guys. So now bear with me while I bring it up. I got to get it. The outro. I got to get it.